Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that continue to follow us on Facebook. We appreciate that very much. We want to try to continue to grow the show in any way we can. And so we do that by doing a podcast right here in the studio. Most of you know I've been following the show for a while. We typically try to do the shows on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, depending on the schedules, whether I'm in town or our guests are available or not. So that's what we try to do right around this time. For those that check in, we appreciate you following us on Facebook, on social media. What we do is once we finish taping this in the studio, then the audio portion of this becomes the podcast, and then we distribute that all over the place. We have tens of thousands of people that download the podcast each month, so I want to take the time again, as I try to do every once in a while, and thank you. I want to thank all the people that take the time to listen to the podcast. I hope you continue to get value and information and education. That's our focus. That's our objective. It's been that way since day one, almost 8 years ago when I started the live radio show, and now the podcast is to educate and inform the consumer, so that you can make wise decisions in and around the real estate. And that's what we'll continue to do with our guests and the content and information we share with you on a regular basis. So thank you very much. Today's topic is going to be a market update and three things to consider. The three things you want to consider right now in terms of where we are in the real estate market. So I'm going to cover those for you today, one by one. So again, quick market update and the three things that you're going to want to consider or act on now in today's real estate market. So the number one thing I want to talk about, other three, is it is a great buyer's market. All right, I can't underestimate this enough. I can't downplay it. I don't want to underscore. I don't want to seriously. Most of you know I've been following my show for 7, 8+ years. I study this every single day. What I mean is I study this market. I study real estate. I study lending. I study the transactions. I report. I work with agents. I really just look at this entire market every single day. And when new developments come up, I like to share them with people right away. And that's one of the benefits of this podcast is I could jump on, share the information on the podcast as soon as possible. So that's what I'm doing today. I can't stress enough how important that those that are listening to the podcast pass this along to friends, coworkers, family members. Right now is arguably, in my opinion, one of the best times to buy than we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast, you're probably going, Joe, I know you've been talking about this, and I want to continue to talk about it and get this information out to people because I see and I hear a lot of people on the fence and vacillating and wondering if they should make the move. And the things I'm hearing out there is, I'm concerned about a possible recession. I'm concerned about impeachment. I'm concerned about the tariffs and what it's going to do. And all these things that, quite frankly, you don't really have any control over. None of us have any control over these things. So my point behind this is that the last 4 or 5 years, we've had this extremely strong seller's market. Aggressive seller's market. And most of you know that if you were a buyer in that time period, you were beat up, you were bruised, you were kicked to the curb. I mean, most of you lost out on offers. Even those that got offers, you paid 10, 15, 20% over asking. And it was a crazy market. Good for sellers, great for sellers, but not so good for buyers. So what I see right now is this great market for buyers. Well, why is it great for buyers? Because things have settled. It's back to a normal market. Some homes have come down a little bit. The values have come down a little bit. They've settled. They're not sinking. They've settled. Okay? Interest rates are near all-time lows. It's another great time to buy. And the reason why it's another great time to buy is that, believe it or not, buyers, you have options now. You didn't have options for the last 4 or 5 years. You really didn't. And I hate to see this opportunity go by in a year from now or 6 months from now or sometime next year people frustrated again because they missed out on a buyer's market. And let's say it flips back to a seller's market, and it could at any time. Here's the reason why it could. Some people would say, well, Joe, it's not really going to happen that quickly, and I don't see it happen that quickly. But don't look at this stuff emotionally. Look at the data. Look at it intellectually. Look at it by gathering information and doing some research. The inventory is still fairly low. Now, some people might say, well, it's over 2,000. It is over 2,000, and I'm talking about Santa Clara County, roughly. Okay, and it was down as low as 500 or 600 a couple of years ago. Most of you know it was crazy, right? So relatively speaking, 2,000 to 22 to 2,300 homes on the market is not that much still. It's not that much. You know what an average normal market is? It's closer to 4,000. 3,500 to 4,000. So relatively speaking, historically speaking, the inventory is still low. And the reason I bring this inventory up, is that it won't take long, it would not take long for this to flip back to a seller's market. Think about it. Let's just call it 2,500 homes on the market. It's close. It's probably less, but let's just call that, for example. And all of a sudden, the market flips and people start buying, and next thing you know, it's down to 1,500, then 1,000. It doesn't take that long when you have millions of people looking at homes, or potentially looking at different homes. So I don't mean to alarm. This is not intended for people to go out and buy if you're not ready. This is for the person who's thinking about buying, who's on the sidelines thinking, I'm going to wait. I could just hear it right now. People, I'm going to wait. Looks like prices are coming down a little bit. I'm a little concerned. The recession. I get all this. I understand it. But what I hate to see people do, if you're in the market long term, if you're buying a home and you plan to be in the Bay Area for at least 5, 7, 10 years, don't make the mistake and let all these other influence get in the way of you making your decision right now. These are things you have no control over. Take control over your life. And if you are a person who is considering buying, I'm saying look at the data. Read it, understand it, articulate it. We could talk about it with someone you trust, but it's a great time to buy. If you're looking to sell your home, we could help you buy before you sell. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people are nervous right now. They're saying, well, Joe, I'd love to buy, but I want to be able to sell my house. I'm not sure if I could do that. I'm not sure if I could afford to buy before I sell. We could help you do that too. So there's a lot of ways to do this. The other benefit is that you have options as a buyer. A lot of people are accepting contingent offers now, which means if you go and you put an offer on a home and you think, gee, I really love to buy this home, but I got to sell mine, talk that out with the real estate agents. In many cases right now, if the home's sitting on the market, a lot of people will take that contingent offer for 30, 60 days and maybe more if it works for you. So these are the things that we pride ourselves in delivering this information to you as quickly as we can, and as efficiently as we can, and accurately as we can. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm saying, give me a call. Call the team. Let's get you approved. Call us first. Get your financing in place before you talk to a real estate agent. Get your financing in place before you meet with a real estate agent, because nothing's going to happen until you get your financing in place. Give us a call. The team here will take care of it. The team will get you approved, get you ready to go, and set you up for that purchase. So before I jump into the second one, the three things I'm talking about today to consider right now. The number one is great buyer's market. Get out there, make the move. If you need some help, let me know. And when I say buyer, that's move-up buyers. People are looking to buy second homes, vacation homes, rental properties, anything. Now, the one thing I will say, if you're a flipper, if you're looking to turn a home or flip a home, then be very careful. That's a whole different conversation that I'm not having today. I'm not covering flipping today. We could do a show on flipping. We've done them in the past. But this is not for flippers, because right now you want to be very careful at any market when you're flipping homes, because you could get stuck in a lull or a market that's transitioning, and it could be problematic. So this is not for flippers. This is designed for people who plan to buy a home and keep a home for a while. All right, so that's number one. Number two, great time to refinance, cash out, do the remodel, do the add-on, pay off debt, student loans, add the extra unit. A lot of people now, most people, if you're listening to this, and really all of California has a strong, aggressive mandate right now to allow people to add ADUs, accessory dwelling units, in their backyard, or on their property, I should say. They're aggressively pushing that. In other words, they're encouraging people to add these units on your property. So go to any of the county websites. You could go to the Santa Clara County, wherever county or city that you're in, your home. Go onto the website and look up the restrictions and the guidelines for ADUs. And a lot of people now are refinancing, pulling cash out, and using that money to build or get an ADU on their property, because this could be used for a family member, children, elderly parents, grandparents. It could also be used to rent out, to generate income. There's all kinds of things to do. So, number 2 today of the 3, great time to refinance and cash out. The reason it's a good time as well is not only needing, if you want to remodel, add on, add some extra units, pay off debt, etc., is that the rates are near historic lows. They're not quite historic lows they were years ago, but they're close. 30-year money is still under 4%. That's great. That's cheap money. It's hard to get that. Historically, it really is. So that's another great reason to refinance. Consolidate debt. If you have an existing home equity line of credit, it's a great time to close that out. Consolidate. Most people don't know, but on jumbo financings, if you've had, be careful who you're working with, because if you've had that equity line for at least 12 months and you haven't accessed any money from it, it's not considered a cash out, which means you could get better rates. A lot of people don't understand this, and this is why you want to work with people that know. If you're consolidating a first and second, it's not always considered cash out. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. You have to figure out who you're working with and what investors you're working with, and that's a big deal. If you have any questions about that, let me know. So, number 2, just to summarize, great time to refinance, to not only lower the rate, get cash out, add the extra unit, remodel, add the bathroom, the kitchen, whatever you're going to do, great time to do that. And also roll in the home equity line a second if you have that as well. Third thing to consider right now in the marketplace is to take a look at the amortization of your loan, and maybe you need to revise that or refinance that. What I mean by that is, let's say you have a 30-year fixed and you want to go to a 20-year fixed or a 15-year fixed. That's another great time. This is another great time to reamortize your loan on a refinance. Maybe you have a 30-year fixed at 4% or 4 1/8 or something. You say, Joe, I know I could get 3 7/8 or something under 4, but I don't really want to go back to 30 years. That's fine. We don't have to go back 30 years to a 30-year fix. We could do a 25-year, a 20-year, a 15-year, a 10-year. I've had some people the last couple of weeks that did a 10-year fixed. Now, it's going to increase your payment because it's amortized and fixed for 10 years, but the rate's great, and they don't want to go backwards. They had a 15-year loan. People that have a 30-year loan, let's say if you had it for 5 or 6 years, let's go to a 25. If you had a 30-year loan and you've had it for 7, 8, 9 years, let's go to a 20-year loan. Let's go to a 15-year loan. There's a number of different things to do that you could benefit from that. Real estate is a great vehicle to leverage a lot of things. I mean, it is, when you think about it, you have an appreciating asset, right? So you have a home, you have an appreciating asset, a place to live, you have a tax benefit for it, and you have leverage in some cases on a mortgage. Let's say you have $1 million home and you have a $300,000 or $400,000 mortgage on it. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. You have $1 million asset, appreciating asset, with a $300,000 to $400,000 loan. So you're leveraging the money that you're borrowing, by the way, that's tax deductible. Your interest is tax deductible. Your property tax is tax deductible up to a certain amount. But think about that. And you have an appreciating asset. And when you have that, when you have an appreciating asset, when you're buying something, and that $1 million asset is appreciating at 4, 5, 6% a year, and then you're borrowing $300,000 or $400,000, just say for an example, and money's at all-time lows, do you realize the benefit of leveraging the low cost of money to increase the potential of your home? That's what you could do with financing. And that's what a lot of people forget about. And I think most people, let's face it, most people want home ownership. They want to raise a family. They want to get established. They don't want to rent anymore. There's a lot of great benefits to doing that. but there are also tax benefits, and there are also a lot of other benefits with the home appreciation. Listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen to everybody, but I can tell you right now, there's a huge percentage of people, millions and millions of people throughout this state, certainly in other states, that because they've had owned property for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, real estate's becoming part of their retirement. What do I mean by that? If you owned a home and you bought it for $30,000 or $40,000 30 or 40 years ago, and now it's worth $2 million, that becomes part of your retirement strategy. That becomes part of equity, part of something that you could leverage and grow and do something with. So you don't have to 100% rely on Social Security or pension or retirement. So this becomes part of that opportunity for you. Home ownership, I'm not saying that you could buy a home today and figure, oh, this is great, 20 years from now it's going to be worth that. That's a mistake. But it is a great investment if it's long term. You've heard me say that before, and it really is. So I want to make sure you consider that. All right, we're going to wrap things up today. But again, just to summarize the three things to consider in the market today. One, great buyer's market. I haven't seen it like this in the last 4 or 5 years. Get out there. If you're on the fence, you're vacillating, you're trying to figure out. If you have any questions, let me know. Great time to buy. I explained the reasons why. Number two, great time to refinance, do the add-on, the remodel, add the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit that people are putting on their property, using that a lot. Pay off debt. A lot of reasons to do that. And third, re-amortize your loan. It's a great time to take that 30-year, take it to a 20, a 15, a 10. Great time to do that as well. As always, if there's any information you want, you have any questions for me, most of you know how to reach me. Go to the website, RERL-1675.com. You could always email joe@RERL-1675.com, or during the week, text, call 408-838-9060. Thanks again for checking in today. Have a great afternoon and take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.